She was so excited about this dream that she had, and all of a sudden she feels like she's underqualified. So then she gives up. The first thing that comes to mind to somebody is, oh, that's for them because they're technical or because they have this unique knowledge that I don't have. They're a genius. They're super good with math. They're super good with numbers or something, right? First, I would say to that person is, it's totally possible. It's totally possible to do that. At that point, I realized e-commerce is the best vehicle at the time to achieve financial freedom. I'm saying all this because we're building Everbee store at the moment. I believe my peak day, just across all businesses in all of my career, my peak day has been, I think it was $110,000 in one day.
Welcome to Print on Demand Wisdom, episode number 27. In this one, I had a very inspirational conversation with Cody, who's a serial entrepreneur. He's got a history in e-commerce, and he is the founder of Everbee. And we talked about a bunch of different topics, including how Everbee came to be and how to use it. We also discussed how some of you watching who might have thought or contemplated building a tool or software of your own, how you might go about doing that. We also discussed a bunch of different mindsets that you might want to adopt to be successful in business, and whatever your goal is or your venture. It doesn't have to be limited to software or print on demand. Cody dropped a lot of really interesting wisdom there. And we also chatted about an upcoming feature or kind of new tool with Everbee that hasn't really been talked about much yet, and that's going to change the world of e-commerce. How did you get into business?
I was probably born into business in some regards, but I didn't realize it. My parents, if I look back, they were entrepreneurs, but we didn't call them that, right? They were blue collar, middle class, lower middle class family. Very ambitious family, I would say, though. Like, from small town. My dad had his own business, contracting, general contractor, construction, right? Working on tractors and grading dirt pads and just working with the dirt. And same thing for my mother and my stepfather. They owned a water well drilling business. So literally like blue collar, like drilling water for water wells, drilling for water with water wells. So that's kind of what I grew up in. And pretty quickly realized what I don't want out of life was probably like being out there working purely with my hands for money, having to trade my time for money. So at that point, I was kind of making my mind up that I wanted to do something different, and I just wanted to do something different. At that point, I went to college to play college football and studied business, not really knowing what I wanted to do in business. I just knew that I wanted to be successful, whatever successful meant. And at the time, successful meant making $100,000 per year, having to not worry about money, and having to not worry about healthcare benefits, because it seemed like that was always the topic in my family. There was usually always a lack of money, always a lot of bills that needed to be paid, and everything was just typically probably too expensive. And I didn't like that feeling that it kind of gave me. So I knew that I wanted to be successful, and I just didn't know exactly what that meant. And that definition kind of changed through time. But that's kind of sparked all of that.
So you were always kind of driven towards business. You just didn't know exactly what to do initially or what the goal is. But what was like what do you think was like your biggest why, the biggest driver of why you wanted to do your own thing?
There's a point I remember when I was younger and I was having a discussion. Actually, I was just a kid and I was listening to a discussion between probably my mom, my stepdad, and somebody else, like in the living room, right? And it was a problem. I could tell it was a problem. And I remember having this realization that this is a money problem. That's I remember just having that realization that went off my head that, oh, this can be solved by money. And it was the first time that really went off, because typically in middle class families or lower middle class families and below, we tend to think of money as evil, and money, more problems, right? We've all heard it. And so then it kind of gives us all a reason, excuse to not be successful and to not go after money, which is interesting. And so it screws ourselves up by believing this. And I was at that time in high school, I was probably 17 years old, 18 years old. And I remember having this light bulb that went off that said, money, it's not as simple as money is bad or money is good. I started forming this belief system that money is a tool and it can be used for good and it could be used for bad. Just like you can build a house with a hammer and you could also kill somebody with a hammer. Same thing.
Yeah.
And so that kind of was like the first, oh, wow, got it. Like there's a fundamental difference in the way that I think versus the majority of people think around me at that moment. And that was really important because then it gave me it let me give myself the permission to go after it and make money. When I thought that was actually a bad thing to do when I was younger. I thought if you were money hungry, if you were ambitious, if you wanted to be rich, that you were all of a sudden selfish, you didn't have a good heart, you're gonna have to scam people, you're gonna have to like shove somebody else down in order to get to the top. And as soon as I realized that didn't have to be true, it gave myself permission to go and actually make money and help people and be a good person with money. And it kind of made me want to like be different than all of those other beliefs that were instilled, I think, in me, not on purpose, but accidentally, I'd say. And probably a lot of other people listening to this probably, I would assume.
I can definitely relate to that. I mean, there is in middle-class families, I think there is a lot of stigma placed on like rich people, that they're, like you said, greedy or they've got all this money, they've got such a good life, blah, blah, blah. And kind of like lots of negativity towards them. And sure, there is those people. It's true for some, but like with anything, it's true for some, but not for all of them. So I can definitely relate to that. But what was kind of you?
Like when people started to keep going on that, it's like there's good rich people and there's bad rich people. Agree? Yeah. There's really good poor people and there's really bad poor people.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So it's not necessarily the money that causes it. Understood, right? And so then it's like everyone needs to get that in their head in order to move forward with the fixing the money problem. Just like I believe that money can solve a lot of problems in our life. And I also believe that it's not going to solve all of our problems in our life. But it can probably take care of like 80% of most of our problems that we complain about on a day-to-day, maybe even 90%. Oh, my car is broken down. I have a piece of shit car. Cool. That's a money problem. Like it's actually a money problem. My health insurance won't cover like my surgery. That's a money problem. That's simply a money problem. Oh, the fires are coming to our house and it just burned down our house. Okay, not really a money problem, but also money can make that a lot better because you're not worried about where you're going to live while your house is being rebuilt. So like money can also solve a lot of other things too. Doesn't solve everything though. It's not going to solve your relationship problem with your mom. It's not going to solve your relationship with your problem with your dad and your spouse and your kids. It also amplifies some problems too. You all of a sudden are realizing, okay, is too much money a problem? Interesting. Like I can't give my kids everything, even though I can. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. And so like there's other frameworks of thinking that come into picture now that I didn't really expect at that time. But I'd much rather have these problems than have the other problems. That makes sense.
They're good problems to have. That makes sense. So now everyone knows you as Everbee founder, right? Everyone associates you with that. Take me back to the beginning. So like, how did you enter into this world of business? Because that's not the first thing you did, is it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, thanks for that. First, I realized I got a corporate job. I got the standard 8 to 5 corporate job, suit and tie. And I had this belief in my head that, okay, I just needed to make $100,000 per year. As long as I had good health insurance, I had enough, I'm happy. Cool. As soon as you start getting that or nearing that, I realized quickly that, oh, wow, it's just pretty selfish actually of me to only make this amount. I can't serve anybody. I can't help my family if they need help. If somebody gets sick in my family, I will not be a help. I won't have any money to help them. I realized that I can only I can't give my wife and my kids, my future kids at the time, extraordinary life off this. So I quickly started realizing, oh, I want to make more money. But why did I want to make more money? It wasn't about the money. It was actually because of the freedom and things that we've talked about before. I read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I highly suggest anybody reads. Most people have read it, from Robert Kiyosaki. And it was the first book that really opened my eyes and my mind to the idea of financial freedom. And I didn't know what that meant. And as soon as I realized, wow, there's another way to live life that's not trading my time for money, I realized that's what I want. And so then it took me down this path of business of, okay, I want to be financially free. So I started doing real estate, not selling real estate. I wanted to be an investor in real estate. I wanted to own rental properties. I wanted to be the owner. And so I did this. My wife and I, we set up a business, and that's what we did. We bought our first out-of-state property. It was in a small apartment complex. We did the whole thing. We flipped properties in San Diego, California. But it never really gave us that financial freedom. It was, we thought we were on the right track of financial freedom because that's kind of what's promised in the real estate passive income world. But what's not really realized is the amount of cash is required for that is pretty significant. And usually it's not that it's not possible. It's certainly possible. Like we did it with no money down purchases. We've done that. But what it really comes down to is there's better vehicles. Actually, that was the vehicle we were on, but there was actually way better vehicles. And then when I went to a real estate meetup, I met this other guy who is now a really good friend, and he was selling products on Amazon. And then I'm like, hey, that's interesting. He's like, oh, I do this. I'm like, that's really interesting. I want to do that. And he was like, I want to do real estate. I'm like, oh, cool. So we invited ourselves to lunch and we traded notes. At that point, he taught me a little bit more about Amazon FBA. I taught him about real estate, and that got me into e-commerce. At that point, I realized e-commerce is the best vehicle at the time to achieve financial freedom. And so that's what got me into the whole e-commerce world. And then naturally that led me to my corporate career. I couldn't quit my job still, but it led me to Qualcomm, which is another tech company that I was working for at my full-time job. And then I was just around technology constantly. From a day-to-day business, day-to-day life, I was around technology constantly. And so at that point, there was years went by where I'm like, I know that I want to be in technology. I know that I want to build technology. I know that I want to build software. And so I just didn't know how to connect it all together with my life, with my passions, with what I'm good at, my skills. And then as I started learning more about e-commerce, you start to identify a whole bunch of problems in anything that you're paying attention to. And so I started building I knew I wanted to build a tech startup at that point. And then it was just a matter of what tech startup. And then Everbee was eventually born.
That's an awesome story. And it shows as well that when you have that desire to work for yourself, to have your own business, the first few things you try, they might not work out. They might actually work out for a while, and then you realize they don't fit you, they don't suit you. And it takes time to kind of realize what you're really good at and enjoy at the same time, right? That kind of intersection of the two. So yeah, when were you doing that kind of whole Amazon journey? What was that?
That was probably 8 years ago, probably from now.
8 years ago.
And yeah, and I launched I was into health and fitness. I played college football. I was around health and wellness all the time. My wife was physical therapy and working in physical therapy. So that was my angle. I started a physical therapy type of brand that sold physical products on Amazon. And we launched our first product. We lost $10,000 and just didn't know what we were doing. We probably went a little bit too big. That was a lot of money back then for me. It's probably a lot of money for people listening to this, and it's real money. And but the second product though, it did pretty well, and to where it was doing like $3,600 a month in revenue after about 12 months. So I couldn't quit my job. I'm in the US, right? I couldn't quit my job. I couldn't live off of it, but it was a good, solid win. I was like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing, and I could create something out of nothing. And that was a really important validator for me. And so that was the Amazon journey. And then fortunately, it just kind of like led me into using a lot of e-commerce tools on Amazon. I didn't touch Etsy. I didn't touch eBay or Shopify really at the time a whole lot. And but naturally, you pretty soon I'm building a funnel and like for my products, and I'm using ClickFunnels to put some stuff together, and I'm using Shopify, and I'm using these things, and I start realizing that what things are really good and what things are not very good, and you get a whole bunch of experience along the way, and you make some money along the way too. So it was kind of an exciting time, honestly. It really was, and I highly suggest anybody does it.
For those people who are watching who might also have this kind of interest in technology or building software or helping solving problems in that kind of spectrum where you, rather than becoming a YouTuber, you're building a tool, right? Do you have any tips for those people of how to get started? Like how were those beginning days with Everbee?
So if somebody wanted to start a tech company, essentially from scratch?
Yeah, in this sort of POD field, because the people watching, they're mostly POD sellers, right? Mm-hmm. And there is additional paths that you can go down. You can become a YouTuber. You can sell a tool in this space. There's many additional income streams. But one thing we've not really talked about on this podcast before is this area of like actually developing a tool or coming up with the idea, noticing kind of a gap or a problem that isn't solved.
Cool. Yeah, first I would say to that person it's totally possible. It's totally possible to do that. The first thing that comes to mind to somebody is, oh, that's for them because they're technical or because they have this unique knowledge that I don't have. They're a genius. They're super good with math. They're super good with numbers or something, right? And I would encourage you to not think that way. First, just say it's possible. Just believe it's possible because it is. So just believe that. Then figure out.
You're saying you're not a math genius.
I'm not a math genius. No.
Okay.
Not at all. I've developed some very good skills that are unique to me, just through flipping real estate properties. I've underwrote thousands of properties. I'm good with a spreadsheet. I understand the business economics. I understand the unit economics. I understand these things. I understand some of the marketing stuff. I understand the e-commerce stuff, but I didn't understand that when I was born. I didn't understand any of that. It's just accumulation of skills that I pick up along the way, and I'm just picking up the rocks and I'm putting them in my pocket constantly. And so first, it's totally possible to do whatever you want in life, let alone build a tool. Second, you do have to be fairly interested in technology, I would say, a little bit. Like it's just like any business, you have to be interested in it if you want to be successful on it. Because Everbee, when I started Everbee, I didn't make any money for like a year and a half. So, and that was me like full time in it, super dedicated to it with no job. This was my job. But as long as you're willing to totally be okay with sacrificing, it doesn't have to be that, but it has to be sacrificing some sort, then it's certainly possible. The way that I did it, I'm not saying it's the best way, but the way that I did it is I was scrapping together products without any money, putting like any sort of investment of development. I was using some no-code stuff. I would put together a landing page. I would see if I could even get interest from the market in a certain thing. For Everbee, for example, I got interest in Everbee before I even built Everbee. It was just a Google sheet. And I would do product research, and I would just build my own little algorithm based on reviews. And I just put together a big list of Google products in a Google sheet, and I sold that. It was free, actually. I gave it away. But if I figured if I can get somebody's email address to be interested in this, then I'm probably onto something. And then I can build the technology to actually automate this and make it way better. And so I was scrappy. And I think that you have to kind of have that mentality of, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I don't necessarily have to bet my entire farm on it, but I need to kind of be scrappy and scrap something together to kind of get interest. As soon as I get interest, then I could probably justify investing a little bit more. And that was kind of the way that I built it. It doesn't have to be your way. You can go raise money if you want, or if you have money, it's not an issue. But,
okay, it kind of sounds like you're kind of roughly sketching out things and testing what it would look like, testing with the market, of course, if there's interest, and then do that whole lot before you actually go full force and paint the the big painting.
Absolutely. It always comes back to the customers. Like you can build the coolest product. It can look the coolest product ever, and it can be so powerful. But if no one's willing to buy it and use it, you be useful, then you just wasted a whole bunch of time and money, and you just you fed your ego more than anything else. Like it's about serving customers, not feeding your own ego.
So once you've kind of found that idea that you want to realize in the market, where do you go from there? Like I wouldn't have a clue where to find a team to do that with if you don't have all of the technical skills yourself.
Gotcha. Yeah. So typically what I would suggest, maybe I wouldn't even suggest it. The way I did it was you have this idea, validate the idea. Maybe it's through an email list, build some landing page, make sure that other people are interested in this idea. And as soon as you're certain about that, make sure you have an idea, sketchbook. You could use a whole bunch of like prototype tools, Canva. You can even whip it up in Canva and have some sort of vision for this thing. And probably go on Upwork, literally go to Upwork and find a full stack developer that would build out this first version for you. And you could literally say like software engineer, and it's going to pop it up, or prototype builder. MVP is a common word in the startup world. Most minimum viable product. And there's going to be a million people that would be willing to build this product for you. And they'll happily take your money, and they will get you to step one probably. And then your next mission is to make sure that product works. Step one, and make sure somebody's willing to pay for it. And if they're willing to pay for it, then you go back again and make it better. And you do it again, and you make it better, 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 and you make it better forever, and it's nonstop, because that's how software works. You don't just build it once, you have to literally make it better all the time. And that's what I would suggest in order to get started, I would say.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's good to know that it's Upwork as well. Like everyone knows Upwork. You don't need to have some secret connections to a lot of people with like, you know, a lot of talent. You can find people online easily.
You can build stuff like with AI nowadays too. Like this stuff is becoming easier and easier. You can type in AI agents and it'll build you a prototype, and it might not be the one that you want, but it'll give you something. You could also go to Bubble. No affiliation, by the way. Bubble's a no-code software. Like my nephew whips up software apps in a weekend, and all through no code Bubble, right? And so just kind of the scrappiness of putting things together is totally available today. Those you'll learn the next step as you go, right? Hiring a team, building out your actual internal company, like your internal development team. Like eventually want to bring it in-house. You don't want to just do it all yourself, and you don't want to have an Upwork person do it forever. You need to eventually hire an engineering team and do all that stuff. Like we're 40 employees now. We were 0 employees.
Did you learn all of this as you're going, or did you know up front, like, this is what I have to do after a year, after 2 years? Because to some people that would probably sound very intimidating, right? A company with 40 people in it, I have to build a team, all this stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. The true answer is you'll learn all this stuff as you go. The harsh truth though is most people are not willing to learn it as they go. And so they're going to hit roadblocks, and they'll just stop, or they'll give up or something like this because of that overwhelm. So as long as you are that person, which you are probably if you're listening to this, that person who is constantly evolving and learning, having this belief system that I can figure anything out, just gives me some time. Just give me some time, I'll figure anything out. As long as you have that, then you will for sure learn whatever you need to learn for the next step. So after hiring your first internal employee, to hiring the second, to hiring the 10th, to hiring the 20th, the 30th, the 40th, all this stuff comes with practice, reading books, talking to other people that have been there and done that before you, listening to this podcast. None of this stuff has never been done before. Like, not really. You know, there's been companies way before us that have been built to thousands of employees. If they can do it, so can you. And that's just a core belief.
That's very inspiring. That's really cool. Let's talk a bit more about Everbee itself then, because there might be some people listening who don't really know what it is, and we haven't really covered that yet. So how would you describe Everbee today?
Everbee is a tech company that helps to simplify global commerce. So we're a platform that people come to us, that all of our customers are creators who want to build an online business, who want to grow their online business. And we provide tools, various tools to help them do that. So a lot of our customers, people are sell on Amazon, people that sell on Etsy, people that sell with their Shopify store, people building their own store. Those are all our customers. People that sell physical products like print, like literally handmade soap to print on demand shirt, right? To a print on demand hat. Those are people that Everbee serves. And we have 700 and I think we just touched 780,000 creators across the world that we serve.
That's awesome.
So it's really cool. Primarily though, people come to us for one of our products called Everbee Research, which is, it helps people understand what products to sell on the internet. And you can literally go to Everbee, you can type in, let's say you want to sell shirts, and you can like sort by revenue, and it'll click sort by revenue, and you can see the highest selling shirts, specifically on Etsy. Oh, this shirt here with this duck design is doing $100,000 last month. That's amazing. Maybe I should create something like that. And that's a lot of our customers. We're known for that probably in the market more than ever right now. And then we have other things like Everbee email that helps them automate their email marketing. And we're always building more stuff, integrating AI and all this other stuff too. But that's primarily what Everbee is.
I noticed there's been a bit of an update recently, like you overhauled the UI a little bit. Can you talk to me a bit about the recent updates?
Oh gosh, we're 3.5 years old. Naturally, just like anything, we have to constantly evolve and make things easier and more simple. Talking back to like the person who might be interested in building software, I think people are attracted to software because it seems like you build it one time and you just collect money after that. It's not at all the truth. Software is an evolution constantly. Things are changing literally every single day. You always have to have a team ready to be updating. And part of our update, our redesign, I guess we called it redesign. It just gave it a fresher look, a more simplistic view of how to use our tools. And the idea, the whole thing with software is to make people's lives easier, to save them time or make them more money. And it needs to be simple at Everbee. It needs to be simple. So it was our way of making things a little bit more simple, preparing for what's next in Everbee. And so far, I think the feedback's been really good. So we're really happy with it.
That's awesome. Are there any features that we haven't touched on that you think people should definitely try out, or like something underrated that doesn't get used enough in your opinion?
Dude, I mean, if you're specifically using Everbee Research, first of all, like this fundamental belief that data is everything, like just it's the shortcut to almost everything. Like our intuition is not good enough anymore. Like, why don't we just look at data too? If you're selling products to moms, like new moms, like you should just, instead of saying, what do new moms want to buy? That's what our common sense would tell us. You should probably go to ChatGPT and ask that question nowadays. Hey, what would new moms buy? And then it's going to give you a whole bunch of it's going to give you a list of what new moms would buy. And then a step further, which one of those products, of those 20 products, should you actually focus on? Because all of those are going to be hard. Well, you should probably plug each one of those things into Everbee and just say, okay, they buy baby blankets. Got it. Type in baby blankets into Everbee. Literally do that. Sort by revenue. You're going to see the best ones. But the key, I think the cool thing, the underrated thing is probably using the listing age feature, where you can actually use the filter and then sort by listing age and actually sort by, like you can look at the brand new baby blankets that just came on the market and you could see their revenue and look at that listing just came out last month and it's already doing $30,000 a month. That's an underrated thing. I think that you teach it. You've talked about it before. Underrated though. Like it should be used all the time.
Yeah, because it's easy to find products that are like 3 years old that are doing really well, but it's tougher to find those new ones that are resonating with the market within the first month or even first few months. I think is still strong. And if they are a very evergreen thing, like baby blankets, right? That's not linked to a trend that just dies tomorrow. It's going to sell for a long time into the future. And it is a new product and it's doing really well. That's a great combination. And yeah, Everbee definitely helps out a lot with that. On Etsy, I mean, you have the bestseller badges, but you're lacking a lot of the data that Everbee gives you on top of that, for sure, and all those filtering options. So you touched on there a little bit about what's coming in the future. You're kind of preparing Everbee for it. Can you share anything about future plans with Everbee?
Yeah, I like talking about the future, especially with Everbee, even if our timelines are sometimes off, unfortunately. But what I'm mostly excited about is I have this belief that I'm curious if actually get your opinion on it. We may have talked about it a little bit last time we talked, but this idea that every single person is a creator and every single person should be a business owner. And I formed my opinion that, and it's evolving, but I formed my opinion now that every single human is a creator. Every single person. And every single creator should own a business. Therefore, it is my duty personally, as a human, as Cody, to help make that a reality. How do we create more business owners? How do we create more entrepreneurs? Because people, all of us have it in our heart to like create something. All of us do. Like we always are more fulfilled when we're painting, or maybe it's painting for you, but maybe it's writing for you. Maybe it's building a business for me. Maybe it's creating a scrapbook for your kids. Like the point is like we're always creating. And the idea is that we should monetize our creations in order to make them sustainable, monetize our passions. And so I'm saying all this because we're building Everbee store at the moment, and we've been building it for over a year and a half. And I'm super excited about it personally because it's finally like the vision of Everbee, the original vision of Everbee is finally getting to kind of become true, which is we will be the platform to enable entrepreneurs to build their passions, like turn their passions into actually businesses. And because it's at the time of today, which is very AI driven, AI is literally everywhere. And we get to use a lot of artificial intelligence weaved in and out of our products. I'm most excited about it today. I'm really happy the way that it's all coming out to be. But the cool thing about it is the way that we're building it is not very much like it has to be Amazon or Everbee store, Amazon or Everbee, or Etsy or Everbee, or eBay or Everbee. It's like the idea is that Everbee is your home. This is your real estate. You get to lease property on Etsy, and you get to lease property on Amazon, lease space, and on these marketplaces. But overall, you should always own your own real estate and build your own house on your property that you own. And they could all work together. That's the way I view it.
So it sounds to me like you're trying to reduce the friction for creators, right? Whether it is someone who sells t-shirts, someone who wants to sell soap, baby blankets, even if it's a YouTuber, like anyone creating stuff, they should feel at home in your space or on your Everbee store. And you're trying to make that barrier to entry lower than it might be with some existing options out there right now.
Yeah, the reality is it's exactly right, Phil. Thanks. The reality is so many people have this ability to create something great and actually sell it. That's not the problem. The problem is they get lost in complexity and they end up giving up on their dream after they've started building it. And so they give up. And so that's like the saddest thing, right? When someone's so excited, imagine like your mom or your sister, and they're just like, they come in the house like, I'm going to start my business. And you're like, good, Mom, you're so good at knitting those blankets, right? Like you should 100% do that. You've been talking about it for years, and she goes and does it. She's like, I'm going to go do it. She comes in and she's like, okay, I need a website. Of course you do. So what you do is you open up your, let's say Shopify, and she realizes very quickly that, oh shit, this isn't like just creating my thing. I have to like literally be borderline engineering to understand DNS settings, custom setup, conversion, like all the tracking, pixel setup, copywriting all of a sudden, images. This one's not optimized for conversions. Oh, you also have to like be a copywriter for your email follow-ups. Like literally, she realizes it sucks a lot of the energy out of the creation for her. She was so excited about this dream that she had, and all of a sudden she feels like she's underqualified. So then she gives up. And then the world pays the price on that because they don't get to actually see your mom's amazing creation. and your mom pays the price on it because she didn't actually make $1, even though she's been so excited about this for literally 10 years. Multiply this person by how many people there are in the world, hundreds of millions, billions. This is quite a devastating thing, actually, if you start thinking about economies and you multiply that into a low income region, Africa, Southeast Asia, or just different parts of the world. You could actually move economies if you just simplify things. You could actually literally change entire economies by simply reducing friction, by letting people actually get to create and monetize their creations. So I know I went into a rant there, but obviously I'm passionate about it.
Yeah, no, I can definitely tell you're really passionate about it, and it is a very amazing mission to make the most difficult part for people more easy, because I know as well from my audience, from my comments and what I have seen in the past few years being a YouTube creator, is like that first year or whatever the beginning phase is for people, that's usually the toughest. That's where a lot of people fall off, and it's understandable, right? You go into it with this love for something that you're doing, something that you're creating, and you realize, oh, well, at the beginning, 80% of my time is going to be spent doing something that I hate or that I don't know anything about, that I don't enjoy, that's very tedious. It's usually some of those things. And at the same time, you don't really see results. So if there is any way to shortcut the process or make all of that tedious, annoying stuff easier, that's going to help a lot of people out, not just the people making the business, but also the people receiving the products in the end. So that's a great mission, man. That's really cool. Do you have a timeline for that? Like, do you know when it's going to launch? Or
yeah, we're targeting April of this year.
April. Oh, that's exciting. Cool.
So that's 3 months out from today. So yeah, we're super excited about it. Obviously, it's going to be an evolution of things. We have step 1 looks like this, and step 2, version 2 looks like this, and 3 version looks like this, and we'll have to move with, okay, what do people actually want and actually need, as you always should be. But the vision of it is very, very cool. The practicality of it, our version 1 is going to be very, very impactful. I'm very interested to see what version 2, version 3, version 4 looks like, because those are the things you don't always know. Like, we can map it out, but you don't know until people use it and get results. Yeah. So I'm very excited about it, though. This year is big.
That's the creative process, right? You never know where it goes at the beginning when you're starting.
Totally. I do know the outcome, though. And the outcome is like, we have, 100 million people using Everbee in the future, and economies have shifted now, and we've made a big impact on like literally the global economy. The idea is that you should be able to eradicate global poverty through commerce. That's the idea. And personally, I want Everbee to play a big role in that. How do we eradicate global poverty in a low income, literally like high impoverished region through capitalism? That would be the most beautiful thing. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah. I'm curious to see how you'll actually go about doing that with Everbee Store, but it sounds like an amazing, like very huge goal.
The idea is that so if you think about it, if you just focus on one person. So let's say there's this guy in Africa, right? And he lives off of, let's say their family lives off of $2 a day. Very real thing in certain parts of the world.
Yeah.
Many parts of the world. They're poor. They can't invest in education. They can't invest in groceries, technology, anything like that, let alone have a dream to start a business. But here comes Everbee, or another tech company, by the way. Like, we want the solution. So here comes Everbee, giving him the platform to actually start his business. He's ambitious. This gentleman's already ambitious. He just needs the resources. He goes and starts his business, print on demand, let's just say in this case. Let's say he learns how to create, like he learns how to design. He's not going to sell it to his neighbors because they don't have any money to buy his shirts. And there's also not shipping to come to Africa in this case, right? But he could certainly sell to London, for example. So now he has a platform, now he's a product, now he's a customer in London, and now he just created a $20 sale for himself. $20 goes into his account, minus costs. Let's say he pulls out $5, right? And he does this, let's call it 5 times. He's made $25 in literally one day. His family's used to making $2 per day. Five sales He's literally changed his family's life. He does this times 100, right? And he does it times 1,000, which is very, very real in e-commerce today. He has now changed his family's trajectory completely. Now if he has kids, he's for sure gonna he could now afford an education for them. Buying groceries, he's going to buy more groceries, guaranteed. His neighbor down the street wants to open a grocery store, or let's say a water service or something like this, but he didn't have money to start it. All of a sudden, he has like $100 to invest in this guy. Now all of a sudden another business is created. And then all of a sudden that guy's successful, and then he's going to do the same thing for him, and do the same thing for her, and same thing for him. And that's how economies are changed. And so that's like the way that I see like Everbee playing a role into like the bigger picture of like the global population, which I'm most excited about. But I also understand that takes decades of work. And that's why I'm not 2 years.
It sounds to me that in that example, all it takes is a platform that makes it easy enough for anyone to start. That's also affordable enough for someone in Africa to invest in it. And then it could be as simple as 5 sales a day, which I know many people watching know that's not impossible, right? That's very doable in this space. Maybe just for some inspiration, because we talked about earlier when you started out, your goal was make 100,000 a year, right? Just to show people what's possible, because we just said 5 sales a day. What's been like some of your peak days now?
That's a cool question. My peak day, I believe my peak day, just across all businesses in all of my career, my peak day has been $110,000 in one day.
That's crazy. So what you originally aimed at for the year, you managed to make that in a day. That's mental.
Oh yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
That's enough said, I think.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, Phil, for anyone listening to this, is it's not even a big deal anymore. Like, that's the crazy thing, is when you evolve so much. So if you're watching this, you're evolving right now. You're evolving as we speak. And you're going to read another book next week, and read another book, and listen to another podcast. And pretty soon you evolve so much, you can't even recognize yourself. I never would have thought I would have been capable of making it in one day. And it's not even important anymore. It is, but it's not really. Like it's so not important anymore, because you just know that it's possible. Like, I know that 100,000 is possible in a day, very clearly to me, because it's happened. If $100,000 is possible, then $1 million is possible. There is literally no difference other than just a 10 times scale. It's just 10 times more visitors, probably 10 times more customers. That's all it is. And so if you can make $1 a day, then for sure you can make 10, right? In theory, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're right. All I need is 10 times more. Okay, well, if you can make $10 a day, couldn't you just make 100? Oh yeah, I guess I could. I just need 10 times the amount. Okay, well, if you can make 100, couldn't you make 1,000? Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, all it is, I just wish I had 10 times more visitors to my site, and I get 10 times more of the conversions. Oh, interesting. Like, if you can make 1,000, you can make 10,000. And it's a scaling thing. As long as the market is big enough, which it is, because e-commerce is so massive, then there's literally no reason why you shouldn't be able to make whatever you want to make. We just need to set the bar higher. We got to stop like this small thinking of, I hope I make $100 a month, or if of income. Like, you can be so much more and be bigger.
I think what's missing for most people is time and knowledge, right? You're not going to go from $1 to $1 million in 2 days, right? You didn't. You haven't got to 2 million in a day yet, but you also said your first 1.5 years you didn't make money with Everbee. So again, same experience as most people. And yes, money helps with scaling, but you didn't make any at the beginning. So I think it's time, education, and dedication to whatever you're doing. Absolutely. Is what makes that possible.
And belief is the core underlining thing of like, I believe that I can at some point. I believe that I can. And I know it's like, it might be so annoying to hear this constantly, because if you've read any books or look on YouTube or you've seen the shorts, they all say like, you gotta have belief. But damn it, they're saying it so much because it's true. You have to believe that it can be done. Otherwise it will never be reality. And the way that I break it down to literally my team to my family who, in my friends who talk about this with, is you need to have two things before turning something into a reality. First, you need to believe it's possible. You need to believe it's possible. If you don't believe it's possible, it is 100% not going to happen, guaranteed. So one, you need to just believe it's possible. Then you need to turn it into probability. I need to make it probable. Okay, so I want to make $10,000 a month in my e-commerce store, selling sweatshirts to moms. Cool. Is that possible? I think that's possible. Cool. It's probably not possible for you in your head yet. You need to verify that is possible. Use Everbee. I can go to a podcast, go listen to a podcast where somebody says this is possible and they prove it with their story. Got it. Now I believe it's possible. Understood. That's fact. Step 2, make it probable. Now the thing about probability is it's a scale, 0 to 100%. How probable is that you're going to make $10,000 a month right now? Probably 0 probability because you just started. You have no idea what you're doing. You don't even know if you're going to stick with it. But as soon as you have a website, your probability goes up to 10%. As soon as you have a product, it goes up to 20%. As soon as you buy a course or listen to a million YouTube videos, it goes up to probably 60%. As soon as you meet a friend like Phil, who actually has done it before, oh shit, probability goes to 90%. Pretty soon you have so much probability that you're like, oh, this is actually happening. It's just a matter of me walking the steps. And then it flips over from probability into reality. And that's how you create the future.
That's awesome. That's, really good way to summarize that and explain it. I've got a few questions for you here, and I saw this on a recent Tony Robinson podcast. I wonder if some people recognize it. And I think you really like this. So first of all, I just want you to answer what you think, or what your answer is to these questions, and then what do you think most people's answer would be to these questions, right? So we'll start with the first one, and it's about what do you focus on more? What you currently have, or what's still missing?
I focus on what I have.
More so than what's missing?
More. Yeah.
Has that always been that way?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't always like this. As soon as you start to flip it, though, I would start out with what's missing, naturally, very natural human behavior. And then you learn something called gratitude. And you start to learn that gratitude is the key to everything. The more grateful you are for something, the more that you're going to get of something. So then all of a sudden you start practicing gratitude and focusing on what you have, which ends up giving you everything that you're missing. So that's my answer with, I believe I focus more on what I have now. But will say that I do focus a percentage. So if it's like 100%, I'm probably 70 or 80% of what I have, 30% of what I'm missing. You cannot do one or the other completely. You have to focus on what you're missing. Otherwise, you're just going to be complacent with life. You naturally will. But you don't want to be 70% what I'm missing, 30% what I have, because then you end up being ungrateful for what you do have, and your wife will start to resent you, or your husband will, or you're not going to pay attention to your kids enough. You're going to always worry about like making your kids faster, stronger, better readers. Like you're not going to appreciate those things. And so it needs to, I believe for me, 70%, 30% is a nice little balance for me. It's not balanced. Notice it's not balanced. It's not 50-50. It's 70-30.
Yeah.
So,
what do you think most people answer to that question?
Yeah, in my experience, most people focus on what they're missing, 70, 80% probably, 90% even, and then 10% of what they have.
The grass is always greener on the other side.
It's very sad to watch it.
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times through my life now. And if you're watching this, you have too. You should ask yourself if you're that person or not, and be aware of it and flip it as soon as possible, because it's a messy, ugly thing to watch someone that is so smart and have all the possibilities and potential and them only focusing on all what's missing, and they're missing out on all the goodness right there in their life right now. All the potential right there they have is already in their heart. Everything's already in their brain. Everything's in the books right next to them, literally sitting on the desk next to them. All the YouTube videos talking about how to start the business is right there. You don't need any more. You just need to go and focus on what is in front of you and pay attention.
Quick tip also for anyone watching who struggles with this: try gratitude journaling. It could be as simple as having a little notebook next to your bed. And every time you wake up, or maybe every time before you go to bed, write down 5 things that you're grateful for. Make it as simple of a task as possible. And it doesn't have to be, I'm grateful for having an expensive house. Like, I don't mean stuff like that. I mean, I'm grateful for waking up in a comfortable bed. I'm grateful for being healthy. I'm grateful. You notice after a while, wait, there's so many different things that I have, which I never think about, that I'm actually grateful for. I'm grateful for having a good friend. I'm grateful for living in a nice area. Whatever it may be in your situation, make that a habit. If you miss it every now and then, it's whatever, it's fine. But, if you do this for a while, every other day, it should help you out. Keep
Absolutely.
that balance.
It's so valuable, Phil. Yeah, I think I completely agree. What we're doing with that exercise is you're reprogramming your brain. Your brain automatically is going negative to what you're missing constantly right now. And by doing the habit, like building the habit of the journal, you're reprogramming, you're rewiring certain connections in your brain to automatically think grateful, 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 grateful first. Because that way, when things go bad, which they always do in life, that happens, you automatically, subconsciously go back to gratitude without even you having to do it on purpose. And that's the goal, is to where it automatically is programmed to just think about the positivity, the things that you're grateful for. One thing that I do on this, so I'm curious if you do something like this too, is I wake up in the morning and I've built the habit to where I just say, thank you. And I just repeat, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I get out of bed with my 2 feet, right? One foot hits the ground, thank you. Another foot hits the ground, thank you. Then I take another step, thank you, thank you. And I literally am saying thank you 20 times before I'm brushing my teeth. And it's just my way of, it's my habit that I've built. It's helped me kind of like do it, 'cause I always have to get out of bed and I always have to walk. So I've kind of like linked those 2 habits together.
Yeah, that sounds like an Atomic Habits line, like linking 2 things together that you have to do anyway.
Yeah. I read the book. Great book.
Next question is, what do you focus on more? Is it what you can control or what you can't control?
Can control, no question.
You focus more on what you cannot control.
What I can control.
Can, okay, good.
Yeah, I focus on the controllables. Naturally, we're human, so we focus on things that we can't control, of course. But again, it's probably like a 90%. Like, as entrepreneurs, as founders, as builders, as creators, we must develop the skill of focusing on what we control. It's a secret. It's a secret hack. The better you're at this, better you get at this, like the more successful you're going to be, happier you'll be. It's
what
action.
About most people? What do you think most people would answer to that?
It's unfortunate. Yeah. Most people would say that they might not even say it. They might not even be aware of it, but they focus on things that they cannot control. For example, the presidency, the weather, the economy,
in the news, like generally things in the news,
and they focus on them, and it is what they're doing is they're unfortunately thinking about all the reasons. They're giving themselves reasons of why they shouldn't be successful, why they should give up, or why they weren't successful at this, why they gave up on their dreams. It's sad to watch this.
I would argue every successful person out there has many things that they cannot control and has had them throughout their entire life. It's not like they just have some magic hack where they can control everything and they've just got easy mode. All right, okay, last question. And once again, what do you focus on more? And these are 3 things. And again, you spend time in all of these categories, but which one the most? Past, present, future. What do you focus on most?
Consciously, I focus on the future, if I'm honest. I don't focus much on the past consciously, but naturally we're humans. So and I keep saying we're humans because it's very important. It's natural behavior to focus on the past. We are programmed a certain way, and I am still trying to fight demons that somehow are subconsciously programmed into my brain that I'm overcoming constantly. So naturally, I think subconsciously I focus on past more often than I would like. Present, I think I spend a good amount of time in present, but I won't lie and say that I'm the most present person at all times during every day. In fact, when you're building company, you cannot live in present too much. You have to live in future. That's a gift. So it's important for us to lean into that gift. But it's also to understand that, for example, for Everbee, I live in the future. I'm always living in the future, Everbee. With my family, my wife and my kids, I'm always living in the present. And those are two places, and I don't want to live in the past at all. I don't want to live there. Unfortunately, I do, but I don't want to live there anymore. Except for the good stuff of like, hey, you've done that before, you could do this, right? I just want to pull it. I want all the benefits and I don't want any of the downsides. So that's the way that I view that.
Yeah. I also think there's definitely not like one that you should solely focus on. Like a good balance of present, future definitely works. And a heavy future focus, again, is probably very common amongst entrepreneurs, businessmen, like creatives. It's natural. But yeah, I think if you ask the majority of people, most people probably agree they don't spend enough time in the present. They're either lingering on the past or they're always thinking about the future. And it kind of overlaps with what you don't have, right? If you're always thinking future, you're always thinking of things you don't have yet in your life that you want and you're hoping to get in future.
It's interesting though. I mean, sometimes I might challenge myself a little bit more. I probably live in the future more and I actually really enjoy it. I enjoy the future. I think it's just, I try not to like let it, there's just times where you should live in the future and there's times that you should not. Like when I'm with my wife and I'm with my kids, fundamentally, I should not be living in the future, right? Like I just need to shut that off in my brain and just literally enjoy every single moment of this. And I would say for the most part, it's a skill. I think that I've developed this skill, so I'm pretty good at this. I think that my wife would agree. I hope. Now, for the future though, it's very important if you're watching this and listening to this, that you think about your future and you think about it with clarity and intent. And there's this thing called manifestation that is very fucking true. It's very real. And if you're not taking advantage of it, you're literally like missing this opportunity of just like creating this beautiful future of life for yourself. And I think too often we leave things up for chance. And I think it's just simply because people think that certain things are out of their control, when actually you might not be able to control it, but you can influence your future, right? Like you can influence outcomes for your life. You can influence whether you're a millionaire or not a millionaire. You might not be able to control every aspect and what it looks like and how I got it and all this stuff, but you could certainly influence your probability of becoming a millionaire and a 10 millionaire and a 30 millionaire and all this stuff, right? Like you can certainly change that. And you cannot do that by focusing purely on present. I don't believe you cannot. You need to focus on the future for this. And you need to think about, hey, what is the ideal version of Phil? What is the ideal version of Cody? What is the ideal version of my business? What does that look like? What is the platonic ideal of this situation? And then it's just, as soon as you kind of have that in your head, which is future, you can work backwards into present and actually reverse engineer that.
Figure out the steps that you need to get there.
Exactly. What are your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
No, it makes a ton of sense. And it's interesting you talk about this because I didn't even think about future just in that aspect. I was also thinking about like looking forward to things or like wishing for things in the future. But yeah, totally like in the future, planning for a better life and knowing what to do in business, that makes a lot of sense. And you have to focus on it, kind of plan ahead while simultaneously then being able to focus back on the present and taking the steps right there and now.
That's the genius right there. That's
the balance you need to strike.
Crystal clear clarity is a term I always say to myself. Crystal clear clarity of the future. The more clear I am, the more likely it's going to happen. If I'm very clear that of what I want out of life, out of what I want out of the business, what I want out of what it's going to take to get there, the chances of it happening are like dramatically increased. And every single person should do this, I believe. Like, get super clear on what you want. What is the outcome that you want out of your life in the next 5 years? Write it down. Describe it like it's a movie. What are you doing? What are you thinking? What do you look like? Do you have a six pack? Are you super chubby? Are you smiling all the time? Are you laughing, or are you sad? Right? And like, what does your kids think about you? What does your wife think about you? Your husband think about you? Like, write it all down. Live in there. Live in that moment. And sure enough, like, you're going to start getting more clear, and pretty soon it becomes a reality.
That's a nice actionable step to end the podcast on, I would say, for people out there listening. Thanks a ton for your time, Cody. That was a very, very nice podcast. Great conversation. Very inspirational, I think. And a lot of good tips and insight there from your journey that will hopefully help some other people out as well that are watching this. If people want to learn more from you or find out more about Everbee as well, like where should people go?
Gosh, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't post on there a lot, but I am on there. I do have an Instagram, but I don't post. You're very disappointed with my content. It's mostly all family and all that stuff, but I'm there. I host of Built Online, the podcast where we talk about building online businesses. So you can definitely follow along there.
And that's on YouTube, Spotify?
That is on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, pretty much all the podcast platforms. And I think, what we do now is we just recently, last month, we started posting our episodes onto my personal YouTube channel, which, again, I don't post a lot on there other than the podcast episodes. And you can follow along the journey on just Everbee, just in general. If you're interested in starting an online business, like, go to Everbee and be part of the community. It's free, and just be plugged into what's happening.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for your time, and I'll leave all of the links in the description. And hope to speak to you again soon.
Appreciate you, Phil. Thanks, man.